The Federal and Chettinadu Public School jointly present Run for Health Karegudi Marathon 2025 on March 2. This event is co-presented by Global Mission Hospital and Research Institute, powered by Repco Home Finance, associate sponsor Sethu Bhaskara College.
Hello and a warm welcome to Federal's special program, Capital Beat. US President Donald Trump has once again raised USAID's $21 million grant for voter turnout in India that his administration has cancelled, and he named this time Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He, as usual, questioned why such a significant amount was spent abroad when a similar sum could have been used to boost the voter turnout in US. And I'm going to quote exactly what Trump said in his address to the governors. He said that, and $21 million going to my friend Prime Minister Modi in India for voter turnout. We are giving 21 million for voter turnout in India. What about us? I want voter turnout too. And this, as I told you, he was addressing the governors. Now, just a short while back, Congress leader Pawan Khera held a press conference. He's also raised some very serious questions. But the big question is that for the last 3-4 days, people have been talking about foreign powers interfering in the electoral process. People have been blaming Congress, especially if you look at the Godi media and the right-wing troll army. They've been blaming Congress. They've been asking questions from the Congress. But this time, this is the third day when Donald Trump has raised the USAID fund of $21 million. But this time it's different because he's directly named Prime Minister Modi. So does this really expose Prime Minister Modi? How will this statement impact politically and also diplomatically? We'll try and understand all of this. Joining me now is K.S. Dakshin Murthy, who's the international affairs expert, columnist, and also the managing editor of the Federal. Thank you so much, Dakshin, for joining. We have Pushpraj Deshpande, who's the editor of who's the author of the book called Bharat Jodo Yatra, and he also works closely with the India Alliance. Thank you so much, Pushpraj, for joining. And just in a short while from now, we'll also be joined by political analyst Siddharth Sharma as well. I'll begin with you, Dakshin. How would you really see this statement coming from Trump and Congress reacting to it? And also now there are questions as to how and where was this $21 million spent, if at all it was used to boost the voter turnout?
See, if you look at, first of all, you should see who is making the statement. Trump is making the statement. So Trump is known to make statements of all kinds. Okay, so whatever he says, we need to really look at the context in which he's trying to say it. And he makes things, he says things in a very bombastic fashion, so to attract maximum attention. That's one side of it. Secondly, when we say that the USAID is given 21 billion to India, to Congress or to the BJP, irrespective of that, you also need to figure out how exactly the mechanism of this funding happens. Giving means what? I mean, it's not like, there is a certain system, because the USAID is it's a well-known organization which has a large gamut of funding which it does, especially to poorer countries. And we may have illusions about India being a superpower, but as far as the world is concerned, India still ranks among the developing countries or the poorer countries. So it's not just the voter turnout fund, but the USAID is helping, are giving aid to India across platforms, in various ways. And they invariably work with government institutions and ensure that whatever they do happens. So we need to really look at the money trail, how the money is actually coming, with whom did the USAID sign a contract. So these things are important, but given the kind of politics that we're seeing now, everybody is just jumping up and down, trying to blame each other and, without really looking at the larger picture.
But Dakshin, there's another thing, I was just reading as to how, every dollar which comes into the country, that has to be reported to the RBI. So if $21 million has come into the Indian account, and I'm not saying whose account it has come in, I'm sure RBI would be knowing exactly. And if Prime Minister Modi wants, he can always inquire from the RBI. And also given the fact that yesterday, MEA spokesperson said that, the second statement which came from Trump, he said that now the matters will be investigated as to how and where this money has gone. So what happens now? Because today there's a complete silence from the BJP's end. So far, we haven't heard. I don't know, maybe by late evening if somebody reacts. But there's a complete silence. And will it be so difficult for Prime Minister Modi to find out how this money has been credited and into which account?
Not at all. It's actually, if the government really wants to figure out how the money actually came into India, it can very easily be found out, because the money trail will be there. It'll all be, above board, and it'll come through various institutions, governmental institutions, and it'll also be incorporated into the Indian budget. Because please remember that the USAID also helps India in its food program. At least it was helping India till about 2012. But it also helps India across a gamut of things. It's not just this voter turnout. You have humanitarian assistance, you have poverty alleviation, you have for health reasons, you have for education. So it's a whole lot of things that India benefits from as far as the USAID is concerned. So it's a well-defined mechanism. There is nothing hocus pocus or spooky about this whole thing. It's fairly clear cut.
All
So
right.
it can be found out. Yeah.
Right. It can be found out very easily. Okay, I'll come to you, Pushpraj, now. That how do you really see this revelation? It's a revelation of sorts by Donald Trump saying that $21 million has gone to my friend Narendra Modi. And why $21 million to India? Why not to us? And then he addresses the governors. How would you really see this statement? And what are the big takeaways, according to you, from this Trump's latest statement?
Good evening, Iluji, to you, our panelists, and our viewers. See, this issue has two interconnected facets related to the geopolitical and foreign policy, and the second related to the political aspect. Let's dissect the first. Now, it has been the accepted norm, as our previous panelist was saying, alluding to, that for the better part of the 20th and the 21st century, that international agencies like the IMF, World Bank, multiple UN agencies, USAID, EDB, gave grants and loans to enhance either governance capabilities or redress critical development gaps in education, healthcare, and so on and so forth. Now, President Trump and Doge's Elon Musk are now comprehensively disrupting these norms and turning insular. On a larger scale, obviously, that's a shakeup in the liberal world order. It is the US government's prerogative, but that's a very different ballgame here. Now, for their own political exigencies, picking up what President Trump and Doge are now doing, which is to redraw the United States' role in underpinning the liberal world order. The BJP government is, for its own political exigencies, caricaturing all these grants and loans as suspect. Now, if the BJP genuinely believes that, then in the last 11 years, I mean, there is a huge list, as you rightly pointed out, the RBI has a huge list of the grants and loans that the government of India has taken while the Modi government was in power. Now, if every grant and aid from any foreign agency is suspect, which is what the BJP IT cells clearly seem to be asserting, then they should not themselves have taken it. I mean, you can't say the grants that you take are suspect, the grants that I take are kosher. It doesn't work both ways. It has to. I mean, the same norm applies both ways. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that if you think about it, I mean, let's address the political elephant in the room here. The BJP is arguing that because these grants and aid were made in 2012 and now 2022, they have basically somehow facilitated or enabled the Congress Party and the India Alliance to somehow disrupt domestic politics. Now, first things first, a number of grants in 2012 went to NGOs unrelated to the government. And the BJP, I mean, there are multiple eminent people, including Prashant Bhushan and many from the Congress Party, who have suggested that the India Against Corruption was perhaps funded by agencies from abroad. Now, this is a very dangerous, keeping aside the fact that this is an allegation, but this is a very dangerous precedent, which actually goes back to even 75. If you remember, when the JP movement started, there was a white paper which I happened to come across in the Parliament Library, which the government of India released then, which suggested that the JP movement, which sort of pretty much paralyzed two state governments, Bihar and Gujarat, and then asked the armed forces to revolt. The white paper suggested that money came from the CIA. Now, there is a precedent which has which has been established. Then, even if you say it's too far in the long gone in the history, 2012 actually marks a watershed moment because an elected government at the center was actually toppled by what many have now said openly was an RSS-backed movement. Now, what you are now saying is in 2022, the government of India is receiving funds, the ECI is receiving funds, whatever it is, 200 crores, keeping aside the Washington Post allegation that this is primarily for Bangladesh. Let's assume that what they are asserting is true, and that money actually came to the government of India and the ECI, which is what President Trump has said. Now, if that is true, then can we assume that what Rahul Gandhi is asserting, which is that voter deletions and voter additions are happening in Maharashtra or Haryana, are somehow linked to this project? And doesn't the onus then lie on the government of India to answer these allegations? That is the second point. And the reason I mentioned the earlier point, the political point, which is why the BJP keeps jumping up and down, is because if there is any truth to what happened in the early 1970s, and there is any truth to what happened in the early 2012, 2013, then the BJP clearly has a toolkit of disrupting state governments, and the BJP has to answer that politically. That is the second thing. And the third thing, understand why President Trump is doing this. I mean, that is as important as what is happening here. He could have let it slide. He could have said that, we've given money to India. Let there be more opacity on whether it was in 2012 or 2022. The fact that he's taken the pains to identify the third term and name Prime Minister Modi as a principal beneficiary of these funds suggests that there is a concerted effort by the US government to put pressure on the Indian government. Now, we can only speculate as to why this is happening, but given the past few weeks, it is logical to conclude that this is possibly to gain more concessions out of the Prime Minister. They have obviously raised tariffs on Indian goods and forced the Indian government to reduce tariffs on US goods, most notably EV vehicles, which will benefit Tesla. And of course, they have given up critical concessions in buying aged F-35 vehicles, which are going to cost billions of dollars. Plus, on top of that, the SEC has filed a report asking the Indian government to help with the Adani case. And on top of that, the US government has had a role in speaking to Australia and speaking to Kenya and Sri Lanka in forcing Adani to remove their port. So my point is, if you look at it in totality, and I'm not saying that this is the entire answer, but when President Trump is directly dealing with China and with Russia and sort of disrupting the entire the established systems that were underpinning the world order, at that time, he's clearly putting pressure on India. And in this case, Prime Minister Modi and the BJP government have been found wanting because they've figured out what is the pressure point on this government. Clearly, this government will not stand firm and defend India's national interests when push comes to shove, and will buckle the first time the president puts pressure on either their domestic credentials, which is that this entire bogey that they've been raising for the last 11 years, that there has been foreign interference and people are compromising India's sovereignty. When that sort of comes to their doorstep, they're going to be mute, and the President Trump and the US can force more concessions out of them. And also on the point of Adani, they have found the fact that they have found that Vishwaguru argument has a huge gaping hole, and they have punctured that. The problem is that Indian national interest is going to be compromised in this. Back to you, Neetu.
Okay. Right. So you were saying that the Indian national interest would be compromised further. But the big question, Siddharth, now I'm coming to you, is that who is going to clarify now, since Donald Trump has called out almost by taking Narendra Modi's name? Now, is it BJP who's going to come on the defense? Will they come up with some kind of a defense? Will it be the MEA or will it be Modi himself? I think Pushpraj is raising his hand for something. Yes, Pushpraj?
Sorry. I wanted to just mention one fact that I find that it's very coincidental that the RBI governor, the RBI is the one which maintains this list of loans and grants to aid and other things. Yes. I find it very coincidental that the RBI governor has been now appointed the principal secretary to the Prime Minister. I mean, what better sign do you have of a cover-up than this? And it just happened, just like literally 15 minutes ago.
Okay. Wow. So that's a coincidence. Okay, Siddharth, your reaction now. Who's going to clarify and this latest development coming in of the principal secretary being appointed? Yes.
Well, I think whoever is the accused person here, I'm saying I'm using the word accused. I'm not saying that person has done that's wrong or right. Giving the benefit of doubt, I think whenever there is an accusation on someone, it's the accused who has to defend himself. Now, what has happened essentially is that the government, I think you were saying a strange thing has happened that out of all this brohuga that is happening, the government of India is very strangely silent for the whole day today. Why I'll tell you, and this is the context to it. Yesterday, the government of India, the Ministry of External Affairs, said that they are going to investigate foreign funding in Indian elections, which is the right thing to do. Now, why did they say this yesterday? Because day before yesterday, the US government said that they had given money, federal money, that is US money, US government money, to India to the tune of 21 million dollars. That runs into nearly 200 crores. Now, the moment day before yesterday, the US government, that is the DOG, the new Department of Governmental Expenses, which is under Elon Musk in the new administration, announced that United States government money has been given to India. India, very rightly, as I just showed you, said that we are going to investigate it. Now, today, Mr. Donald Trump, the President of America, has said that this $21 million was given to my good friend Modi in India. That is the verbatim words that he has used. Now, whether Mr. Donald Trump's good friend, Mr. Modi in India, is Lalit Modi or Nirav Modi or Modi ji living in Lok Kalyan Marg, we don't know. Now, since the investigations are already, as per the government of India, they are going to investigate. I think they have to investigate Lalit Modi also to ask him whether he is good friends with Trump or not. They have to investigate Nirav Modi also to know, to understand whether he is good friends with Mr. Donald Trump or not. They also have to go to Lok Kalyan Marg and ask Mr. Modi sitting there that is this the Modi, the Trump saying, is it you? Or the other option is forget about Mr. Nirav Modi and Lalit Modi who are out of India. The Lok Kalyan Marg Modi ji who is living in India and he has a very nice panache for coming on national television at 8 p.m. or on Sundays on Man Ki Baat. He should come and say that yes, this $21 million was not given to me because the government of India is already on record saying that they are going to investigate it. Now, Mr. Donald Trump has said that this $21 million, that is 200 crores, was given to my good friend Modi. He did not name India. He did not name BJP. He did not name Congress. He did not name DMK. He did not name Aam Aadmi Party. He said that I have given this money to Mr. Modi, my good friend in India. Now, as far as public are concerned, only three Modis are well known in India: Nirav Modi, Lalit Modi, and the Modi ji living in Lok Kalyan Marg. Two of them are outside India. Now how the investigative authorities will ask them and when they will reply is not in our hands. But the third Mr. Modi who lives in Lok Kalyan Marg, the investigative officers have to go to Lok Kalyan Marg and start investigating, or th- that person has to come on national television because he has a panache to do so and come up and say that whether they have taken this or not. It's as simple as that. There is no now how this money came to India, whether it was right, whether it was wrong. Now, if day before yesterday, when Mr. Donald Trump says something and you take it as gospel truth and start investigating, how can you take the stand today that what Mr. Donald Trump says is he's speaking out of the hat and he's a non-credible person? You cannot take both the stands at the same time. That becomes an oxymoron. I think that's why the government of India is strangely silent today because they threw a boomerang. And as you know, when a boomerang is thrown, it usually comes back to you. It has come back to them. In fact, it's not just come back to them; it's hurt them. Government of India said that they are going to investigate foreign money coming into Indian elections, which is the right thing to do. Any country would not want foreign money in Indian in its elections. Now, that same person who also happens to be the president of a country, one of the biggest countries in the world, one of the most powerful countries, has named an individual. My good friend Modi has received 200 crore rupees. Now that Mr. My good friend Modi has to come up and answer to the people whether he has received that 200 crores or not.
Right.
And
So
the
you're
government of
basically saying,
India,
Right. So you're basically saying that the onus lies on Prime Minister Modi to clarify things. Now, I'll just go back to the development to which Pushparaj had pointed out, and I'll come to you, Dakshin. Just reading out the excerpt of that story. Ex-RBI Governor Shakti Kanta Das has been appointed the Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister. The appointments committee of the cabinet has said that Shakti Kanta's appointment will be coterminous with the term of the Prime Minister or until further orders, whichever is earlier. And this is what the detail of the story so far is, and I'm sure it's waiting for more updates. But Dakshin, would you say that this is coincidental, or is this appointment clearly related to the developments which have happened since the time Donald Trump has made this kind of a statement that $21 million has gone to the Prime Minister Modi?
I really, frankly, I really don't know because it's I mean, some of these issues can be looked at it in many ways. We can say that it is a coincidence that when this controversy has come up, he's been transferred as the principal secretary. What purpose is served by this, one doesn't understand. But I'm really on a larger point of this whole issue. How there is now a general tendency to politicize anything. For instance, George Soros, he's now projected as some big villain, while actually, if you go back into what he has done, etc., it's not so simple, like the way it's being projected. So, I'm saying the narrative today, is slanted one way or the other, and at the end of it, we really will never get to know what actually happened. So, what I'm really interested in is actually knowing what exactly happened. And then you have a person like Trump on one side, you have heavy politicization on the other side. I'm afraid that in between these two,
Whom to believe?
yeah, and it's just going to go on, without really any fruitful kind of outcome to any of this.
Right. So, Pushpraj, I'm coming to you only. Would we ever know to whom that money went? And different claims are being made by Donald Trump himself on different days. On some day he says something else, on the other day he'll say something else. And now the third day he's made a statement saying that $21 million has gone to Prime Minister Modi. And I'm sure he didn't just make that statement into the thin air. He would have known and he would have realized the kind of political impact or a diplomatic impact that statement would make. So, what is really the true picture at this moment? And now, opposition also has asked for details. KC Venugopal, General Secretary Organization, he also said that now one must clarify as to the spike in the voters and the deletions in the voter list which happened. All that needs to be explained if that $21 million was being used for all this activity.
Yeah, Niluji, I completely endorse whatever has been said, but I want to raise two structural issues here. One is related to the integrity of the election commission, and that is something that we have been talking about on multiple fora for many years. They have not yet allowed a demonstration of the EVMs. Whether you buy the argument of EVM hacking or not is not the issue. The issue is that there is some section of society which has doubts about the EVMs. Similarly, some parties have raised questions about deletions of voter lists, publication of voter lists, increase of voter percentages after the polling is completed. Now, it is the onus of clarifying things, of setting the record straight, is on the election commission, especially when it comes to something so fundamental as the integrity of our electoral process. Now, the election commission has repeatedly denied they have been completely opaque. They've repeatedly denied any kind of transparency or refused to be held accountable, which is something which is very deeply troubling. On top of that, when now the highest office of the country and the party that is in government right now starts alleging voter fraud, or starts alleging that some parties or some agencies are misusing funds to rig or to gerrymander the electoral process, whether in 2012 or 2022, the fact of the matter is, it is in the interest of the election commission to come out and set the record straight and say, if we receive the funds, this is what we use it for. Here is the facts of the matter. Similarly, I mean, it is in the government of India's interest to ensure that there is trust in society, in institutions, and in the government process. So, whether it was the UPA government or whether it is the NDA government, the BJP government, the Prime Minister's office must personally take the lead and ensure that the RBI releases lists of what grants have come, where it was utilized, and to prove to the public that nothing shady is happening. To politicize, to misuse and caricature what could possibly be, I don't know, I mean, what could possibly be legitimate grants or loans in aid, grants in aid and loans, and try to vilify people like Soros and Omidyar. They've also started attacking Omidyar network. They've also started attacking USAID and Deep State and Canada. Of course, how can I forget Canada? Now, when you do this, it's going to have multiple domino effects. One is that you create distrust in institutions amongst society, and it's not a very conducive situation in India. That is the first thing. And the larger, which is the second point I was coming to, the larger structural problem is that you created this deep distrust in foreign regarding foreign institutions. You are effectively putting a freeze on foreign funds coming into India to plug critical development or economic gaps. Now, think of what is going to happen in the next 3 years. Anyone who wants to invest in India, or any multinational company which is set up in India, which wants to have give some CSR to for whether it's education or women's health or anything that is totally benign and in the national interest, they would think 10 times before putting up that kind of funds. Same thing with any development agencies. Do you think ADB or IMF or World Bank would be willing to now put up funds into India? This is going to have a chilling effect. The kind of irresponsible foreign policy that this government is effectively spearheading, it is going to have a chilling effect on development aid. And as our previous panelist from the federal was saying, it is not like we are completely everything is hunky-dory in India. Economically and socially, there is a long way for us to go to be able to be considered an Annex 1 or a developed nation. So we do need help, and there is no I mean, machismo and national pride aside, there is no loss of face if you ask for support or help from other people. But when you do this kind of irresponsible Gestapo kind of foreign policy from the IT cell, then these people, these international agencies, multilateral agencies, and multinational companies are not going to invest in India, which is our loss. I mean, in this entire situation, the
Right.
citizenry in institutions, companies, and multilateral forums institutions do not invest in India. We are the net losers, and the government of India is responsible for this situation. So the larger
Right.
question we should be asking is that, is this government thinking about its national interest, about our national interest? It's not. I mean, for its own political brownie point, it is compromising our national interest in manners. I mean, it is going to take years to undo this kind of damage that they are now wreaking upon India. Back to you,
Right.
Neil.
Right. So, Siddharth, now the big question is that by this statement of Donald Trump, is Prime Minister Modi really in a deep trouble? In a trouble, when I say it's political trouble, diplomatic trouble, and will he be able to brazen out as he usually does, or is going to be very difficult for Prime Minister Modi to explain on this?
No, why should he brazen it out? Isn't anybody who is innocent should not worry about the law, right? That's the norm. BJP has been saying this for so long that whenever it puts opposition people in jail and there is a huge cry around it, loud banging around it, BJP says that if you have done nothing wrong, why are you fearing it? So if Mr. Modi ji has not taken any money, that is the supposed $21 million from Mr. Trump, as he said, why should he worry? There should be an investigation. The MEA has already said that they are going to investigate it. So I don't think they need to brazen it out. They just need to start that investigation and take it to its logical conclusion wherever those facts take them, and including all the accused. Maybe I think for all that matters, the investigating authorities also have to go to the White House, because just like the United States gave a subpoena to India to ask Mr. Gautam Adani to attend their investigation, I think the Indian investigator should also ask Mr. Trump to cooperate with Indian authorities and ask him that when you took Mr. Modi's name, my good friend Modi, $21 million, which Modi did you mean? Was it Lalit Modi? Was it Nirav Modi, or Mr. Modi, the Prime Minister of India? And I think Mr. Trump should cooperate with it. BJP is a Vishwaguru. If US can ask India to serve a notice to Mr. Adani, why shouldn't India ask the US to serve a notice to Mr. Trump? It's as simple as that. It's the law, right? I think it's nothing to brazen out. I think it's an investigation that BJP itself has. It's not BJP. It's the government of India that has that has initiated, and it should let the investigation run its course. It's as simple as that.
Right. I was just looking at the Twitter timeline, or rather the X timeline of all the BJP leaders. There's a steely silence today. No one has reacted. I was looking at the BJP for India X timeline. No one has reacted. The top video is that of JP Nadda, who's attending the Hanuman Mandir Puja at Prayagraj today. That's what about, I think, 4 or 5 minutes back he's BJP has posted. So I'm just wondering whether BJP at all is going to react on this issue. But yes, there's a big hue and cry as far as opposition. Yes, Siddharth, you want to say something?
Yeah, because if you don't start investigating, what happens if 2 days later Mr. Trump again comes on TV and says that this money was given on so and so date? If 1 week later he also says that this money was given in such a manner, so this thing will never end, because it is not in India that is happening. It is Mr. Trump that is saying, which is out of your control. So unless India starts investigating it, as per its own admission that they have to investigate it, you won't get to know the facts. And I think investigation, it's a fair investigation. India has excellent investigators. The Indian police and the Indian investigative authorities are the best in the world. They will obviously not harass any or make any scapegoats out of innocent people. So I think whichever Modi is named here should not worry too much if he has not taken that $21 million fund, and he should be open to investigation. I think it's as clear as that.
Right, so we'll have to wait for two things now. If at all Prime Minister Modi reacts, and secondly, now if Donald Trump speaks again on this particular issue, spills some more beans, we'll have to wait and watch. Thank you so much, Dakshan, Pushpraj, Siddharth. Thank you so much for joining. And one appeal to the viewers who are watching this discussion: subscribe to our channel, send us a feedback, and stay tuned to the Federal. Thank you.
The Federal and Chettinadu Public School jointly present Run for Health Karegudi Marathon 2025 on March 2. This event is co-presented by Global Mission Hospital and Research Institute, powered by Repco Home Finance, associate sponsor Sedhu Bhaskara College.